What is going on, everyone? Welcome to the stream. Everyone that's trickling in here, I appreciate you all so very much for coming here, hanging out with little old me. Anybody that's watching the stream after the stream, thank you for taking time out of your day to spend time with me. So, this stream, I wanted to talk about the tampering, right? We see a lot of reports. The Knicks are now the latest in the NBA, potentially looking into some tampering on the Jalen Brunson front. The Philadelphia 76ers are being investigated and looked into on the fact that James Harden decided to opt out and take less money to get new players and stuff. And I did do a video talking about video and we kind of broke down why I don't think it makes sense. And one of the arguments especially when it comes to the 76ers is that James Harden opted out of money in order to sign a new deal and take less money. Which, yes, I can understand the thought process on that. But, Bradley Beal, right? He could have opted in and then signed a new extension and got a new deal and all that stuff too. And it would have been the same sort of outcome. But the only difference is that Bradley Beal took the max and didn't leave any money for anyone else. Where James Harden, he decided to leave money for some other players. Like he said, go get me who you need to get me and then give me whatever's left, which isn't against the rules. I mean, James Harden has that right when it comes to, going and getting players and stuff like that. Now with the Knicks, that's a little more tricky because Jalen Brunson's dad's on the coaching staff. He's family friends with the Rose, and it's just that kind of is not very, very good looking. So the Knicks, I understand that full investigation because it's like but even then, it's not Jalen Brunson's fault that his dad works for the Knicks and he wants to go play with his dad. Like, it doesn't. A lot of NBA players have connections and friendships and relationships with some of the execs and stuff like that. Plus, Rosie was a agent before, right? And so that still, again, it's kind of tricky. But I understand the Knicks thing. The Sixers thing doesn't really make a ton of sense to me, just because James Harden has that right to be able to go and say, I want to take less money and, and go get me other players and then I'll sign a new deal. Now, rules are in place. Maybe it's kind of stretching it, kind of going around it, whatever. But ultimately, I mean, I just, players do this stuff all the time, right? I mean, back in the Olympics, LeBron James, Dwayne Wade, Chris Bosh, hey, we should all play together. They end up all taking less money to go play with Miami. Like, it's not, this stuff happens all the time. Russell Westbrook. Russell Westbrook wasn't even on the Lakers. He was on the Wizards. And LeBron James, Anthony Davis, and Russell Westbrook all got together and had a conversation and said, hey, you should come to the Lakers. And then went and told Rob Pelinka, hey, we need you to go trade for Russell Westbrook. It just, the players have the power. Like, are there backdoor deals? I'm sure. Like, of course there are. Are there, players that, talk and stuff? But the organizations, they don't need to do anything. The organizations have the players to do it. We're not in the NBA where players hate each other and they want to, compete against each other and stuff. We're in the NBA where every player has each other's numbers. They're best friends. They're eating tacos on Tuesday. They're all, just living life and having fun. And they all want to play together. They're all best friends. They all grew up in the AAU circuit, stuff like that. Like, it's a different league. It's a different world now. And so these organizations, they don't need to tamper because the players do it for them. If you have James Harden, like, and not just that, but like with the Sixers situation, like, what did the Sixers get? They got Daniel House and PJ Tucker. Like it's not like they went and signed Bradley Beal and they both took a major pay cut. And even then, it's like, how do you prove that? How do you get something like that to stick? Is my biggest problem. But Mr. Kyrie trade, what is going on? What is going on, Lake Show, bro? Appreciate you. Thank you so much for being here. Is there any way to get rid of Russell Westbrook to get Kyrie Irving? It's likely going to have to be a 3-team deal. There's a couple options depending on what shape up. The Spurs have been reported to have said that they would take Westbrook for a first round pick. So you could just have them kind of absorb salary. Well, they'd have to kind of make a few things work, but Westbrook could end up going to the Spurs, and then the Spurs would waive him, sign him. The Knicks and the Jazz, if those teams work out a deal for Donovan Mitchell, then both of those teams would be willing to trade for Russell Westbrook because they want salary relief. They want to clear some salary for them. And then when it comes to the Indiana Pacers trade, that very likely, if the Lakers could work it out, it would very likely be Miles Turner would probably go to the Brooklyn Nets, and then Kyrie Irving would go to the Lakers, something along those lines. Well, it'd have to be like THT and Miles Turner, Miles Turner and like Kendrick Nunn, something like that, to kind of make it work. So, there is a way to do both. The only way to get Kyrie Irving is to get rid of Russell Westbrook. Rules are made to be bent and broken. Yes, absolutely. Yeah, and that's kind of my point. Like, there's always a loophole. There's always a way to get around it. And like I said, these organizations, they don't need to tamper. They don't need to go and have, back channel conversations and stuff. They have the players to do it for them. You don't think LeBron and Kyrie had a conversation? And Kyrie was like, "Hey, what do you think about me coming to the Lakers?" And LeBron was like, "Yeah, sure. Like, let's make it happen. I'll talk to Rob." Like, of course, that's how that stuff works. You think James Harden didn't go and talk to PJ Tucker or talk to whoever he needed to and said, "Hey, why don't you come to Philly?" Like, of course. You don't think Kyrie and Kevin Durant had a conversation and said, "Hey, are you gonna stay here or not?" Nah, I'm gonna opt in and I'm gonna tell them to trade me to the Lakers. Like, okay, good. I'm gonna go I'm gonna request to trade myself. Like, of course, but you can't stop the players from tampering. Like, you can't. And so the organizations, like I said, they don't need to do anything to tamper. They don't need to get involved that heavily. They, a lot of the times, that's why a lot of these organizations listen to the players. Like, why do all the teams that LeBron is on go and do what LeBron wants? Because LeBron's already got it worked out. The Kevin Love, he already had the Kevin Love thing worked out. I got Kyrie Irving, go trade Kevin Love, put a package together and go get me Love. Stuff like that. It's just, it's how it works. It's just LeBron's been the best at it. LeBron gets these deals done before. Like the Anthony Davis thing, Anthony Davis was like, "I'm going to the Lakers." You don't think LeBron called Anthony Davis? It was like, "Hey, man, I'm going to have the Lakers trade for you to..." It's just LeBron has been the best at it. LeBron's been the best recruiter ever, and that's just how it is. And now you're seeing a lot of these other teams that have these star players that are trying to recruit. Like I said, the organizations themselves, they don't need to get that heavily involved. They don't need to do anything to have anything like that happen. You see the picture of Kyrie with fans? No, I have not. At least not recently. I'll have to check it out. Well, how long ago was it posted? But that I have not. Rob should have told them absolutely not. You mean in the regards to the Westbrook trade? Yeah, he probably should have. But you failed the trade the year before, which I don't think Rob really failed at that. But it's one of those things where sometimes you got to listen when your two stars come into your office and say, "Hey, we want you to go get this guy. We believe it could work." At some point you got to make the stars happy. Yo, it's Joe Grizzly. Just wanted to say keep up the good work. Hope we get Kyrie Irving. Well, thank you so much, Joe Grizzly. I appreciate you. Thank you for popping in here, saying hello. And yeah, I hope we do too. Fingers crossed, definitely. Also, how do you feel about Westbrook signing with agent Jeff Schwartz? Yeah, that was the place, the destination he was supposed to go originally. After the firing of his agent. It's just he wants to get the guy that can get him out of LA. And Jeff Schwartz is probably the guy to do that. That's all this is about. They just want him to be able to go get, Westbrook wants out. He wants to be traded. He doesn't want to be there. And his previous agent was like, "Look, you need to stay there. You need to do whatever they need you to do or whatever they want you to do, this, that, and the other." And that's what ended up happening. How are the Vegas odds to the Lakers getting Kyrie, and how are yours? Well, Vegas odds have not changed from last I checked. Kyrie's still minus 160, I believe, to go to Lakers. So last I checked, which was about a week ago now. So I mean, they could have updated, but I don't believe it has. Um, let's do this in real time. Oops. For Kyrie Irving, let's do this in real time. So, oh come on, I need updated odds. Lakers are minus 130 right now. Vegas odds. So yeah, so Lakers are still favored to get Kyrie Irving. This was how recent was this? This was as of oh no, this is an old one. Updated. Yeah, this was updated July 11th. Yeah, because like I said, last time I checked, it was minus 160. Yeah, it's still minus 160 for the Lakers. There we go. Yeah, so it hasn't changed. Still minus 160 for Lakers. And I'm still there. I'm still, 70-30 he gets traded. I just think it's gonna happen. I really do. I just again think it's a matter of when, not if. But we'll see. I mean, you never know. You never know. Uh, what percentage do you give the Kyrie trade of happening? Like I said, about 70-30, because I and I never want anything to be 100% for one, so I'll never give 100% answer, but I think it's going to happen. I want it to be more like 80-20, but I think like conservatively, it's probably 70-30. I just think that I just think it's they have to trade him. Like, do they really want to wait till the trade deadline if things blow up? At that point, they're getting nothing back. At that point, you're basically begging the Lakers to just give us Westbrook for the rest of the year. I just think that before training camp starts. So basically by the end of this month, the latest, I think he gets traded. Um, today I believe. Oh, for the image. Okay, I'll look into it. I'll take a look. Man, this next season can go very bad for the Lakers. Imagine a Russ +2 first for Heel Turner. If AD gets hurt, Lakers could end up without draft picks and without LeBron going to Bronny's team. Yeah, so the thing is, though, is that one, even if we are terrible this year, we don't have draft picks regardless. But if you're talking about, several years from now, we'd still, I mean, look, if we end up doing a deal for Heald and Turner, and this is why I think Heald and Turner is the second best deal next to Kyrie Irving, obviously, is because Heald and Turner, 3 to 4 years from now, are still going to hold value. Heald, maybe not so much, depending on how he progresses, because he's what 30 already. But Turner, he's still like even in 4 years, he's still going to be 32. So let's say after this season, LeBron's here for 2 more seasons. So that would take us into what, the 2024-2025 season. And let's say LeBron leaves and goes to Bronny's team, right? And you have Anthony Davis, you have Buddy Hield, Miles Turner. I'm sure at that point they'll have some other guys, whatever it is. You are in a position to do several things. You can either package those guys and go get somebody else, depending on where AD is in his career, where Turner is in his career. Also, they would have a lot of money to go and spend at that point, because at that point, all you'd have is Turner and, I mean, assuming the Lakers keep preserving cap space as we move on. But you got to figure you'd have, Heald and Turner would be at the very least expiring. Heald might even be gone by that point. So let's say you're left to Turner and Davis. You still probably have enough money for a max player or two, because salary cap is supposed to go up in 2025 again because of new TV deals. So very likely you can either just kind of retool and try to contend again, or you got two tradable assets that are still in their primes and their early to mid 30s. Like, that's why I think that trade is the second best trade, because if you have to, all of those guys become very easily movable pieces. They all become very easily movable players. Damn, you got rid of the West brick wall. Well, don't worry. Here, look, I got you. Don't even trip. We're back. There you go. Just because you asked, I'll leave that up for a minute just to keep people happy. AD and LeBron made a deal to come to LA when LeBron was still in Cleveland, in my honest opinion. I kind of feel like that too. They might have not been able to. I mean, they couldn't have pulled it off the year that he went, but LeBron knew somebody was coming. I'm sure he talked to the Lakers I'm sure he talked and knew, if I'm going to LA, you're going to do this. Like, and I'm sure he looked at the landscape and said, if I go to LA, I got to write it out for 1 year. And then Anthony Davis can force his way out of New Orleans to LA. I think that that's what happened. I think that LeBron James knew, I can get Anthony Davis because the Lakers have enough young assets and enough young talent, and I could go get a potential top 5 player in this league to pair with. And that guy will be able to help me during my, twilight years, and we should be able to win a championship or two. That's what I think he ended up doing, and it worked out. I mean, he got it. I just don't think it's a coincidence that, pretty much as soon as that season was over, boom, all the Anthony Davis to Lakers talks started coming out, all the reports. Anthony Davis is going to force his way to LA, all that stuff. And then you hear the trade request, and it's like, oh, okay, yeah. So good to see you. Thank you so much, Kenneth. Great to see you. Thank you for being here. I appreciate all of you so much for hanging out with me. What do you think of the Lakers bench? I think it's solid. We definitely need shooting. As the team is right now, I don't believe that the Lakers are a contender. I mean, you can't rule out LeBron James and Anthony Davis. A healthy LeBron and Davis, I still think, is one of the best duos in the league. I think chemistry is going to be a big thing. What do they do with Westbrook? Is Westbrook on the team or not? If he is on the team, have they been able to make it work? But I do think we definitely have some more depth. We do have some young players. We got some good size. We got some athleticism. I think we're going to be better defensively. But, if we're doing like A to F ranking, give the Lakers bench like a B minus, maybe like a C plus. I don't think that they're, I don't think they have one of the better benches, but I don't think the bench is bad. I think Kendrick Nunn is being slept on heavily. I think, Stanley Johnson can be solid. Wenyen Gabriel can be solid. Damian Jones will be solid. I think they got a lot of really nice pieces. JTA, Troy Brown Jr., Austin Reeves, whoever. I think that like I said, I think it's like a middle of the pack bench. But who knows? A lot of these guys, new team, new environment, new situation. They're playing with LeBron. They're playing with Davis. They're playing with Westbrook or Hield and Turner or Kyrie or whoever. A lot of these guys might step up. A lot of these guys might increase their 3-point shooting percentage, all of that. So Nets might trade Kyrie for LeBron. That ain't never gonna happen. If AD keeps getting hurt, when would be the time for the Lakers to consider a trade? Whenever LeBron leaves. I don't think the Lakers are going to get rid of LeBron get rid of AD unless LeBron either gives the okay or he leaves. I just think they're going to keep him around. But I mean, as much as like the narrative is that AD is always hurt, like I said, he's played more games than like half of the top 25 players in this league. Just off the top of my head, he's played more than KD, Kyrie, Paul George, Kawhi Leonard. The problem is he seems to get hurt at like the worst times. It's not so much that he gets injured. It's that like he gets injured when we're up like 2-1 against the Suns in the playoffs and we're trying to go up 3-1. And it's like, if you would have just gotten hurt the next game, LeBron probably could have willed that team to get one win at least, but it's like that. It's more of like when he gets hurt rather than that he gets hurt. Also, you got another thing too is like that year, the 2021 season, everybody got hurt. And all the top teams that like so Miami, the Lakers, Denver, like all the teams that were in the deep playoff run in the bubble, all either got eliminated in the first round or their whole team was decimated. Like I don't know if you remember, but there were the reports that were like, "Is this the most injury riddled season ever?" And the NBA even released a statement and said that like based on comparisons to past years, the injury total is the same, but it didn't take into account top, 30 players compared to like average players. Like, yeah, if the 15th man on the bench gets hurt, that's not the same thing as if, Jamal Murray gets hurt or something like that. And you saw the following season, like all these players just kept getting hurt. And it was something that just it wasn't good. It wasn't good for the NBA. It wasn't good for anything. You saw a lot of the players kind of I mean, look at the Suns. The Suns caught a ton of breaks that year. A ton of. I mean, Anthony Davis got hurt. Jamal Murray got hurt. It was just like this break after break after break of just like star players on the other teams getting hurt, and the Phoenix Suns were able to essentially walk to the finals. So it's just how it works. Anthony Davis last year, that was disappointing, but again, you can't control somebody rolling over into your ankle. Somebody gets thrown across the court and falls into your ankle. Like you can't control. Like there's some injuries you can't control. So again, the problem was just the worst timing. Like we were trying to get back into the playoff picture. We were looking good. Anthony Davis was putting up 30 and 15 games, and it was looking like he was his dominant self. And we were like, there it is. There's the Anthony Davis we know and love. And then he gets hurt and he's out. And then there goes our playoff hopes. And then at that point, it's like, why bring him back at all? Who starts at guard and center? So I think it depends on the situation. So if we get, say, the Hield Turner deal, LeBron's going to end up playing point guard. If we get the Kyrie deal, LeBron still plays point guard, but Kyrie will probably be point guard on paper. And then when it comes to the Hield Turner deal, Turner would be center, Davis would be the four. I think no matter what ends up happening, LeBron is probably going to be the pseudo point guard, especially what Darvin Ham said, where he was like, I want LeBron James to have the ball in his hands whenever LeBron James is on the court constantly. So I think that that's going to be the plan. Even if Westbrook is in the game and he is on the team, I think LeBron will end up being like the point guard. That might not mean that he'll always be the guy to bring the ball up, but once it gets cross half court, get the ball into LeBron's hands, let LeBron go to work, let LeBron, do his thing. That's what I think will likely end up happening. But I think as of right now, assuming no changes, nothing happens, I think our starting five is, what Russell Westbrook. I think it's LeBron James, Anthony Davis, and Thomas Bryant. Okay, and then I think the shooting guard position will be whichever one of the newer, younger guys is the most consistent in training camp as far as 3-point percentage and defense goes. So I think it'll basically come down to Austin Reeves, Walker, Troy Brown. I know a lot of people want Kendrick Nunn. I just think that they're going to save him for the bench unit. I think they'll let him, I think he'll play with the starters at times. But I think to actually start, I think Kendrick Nunn's going to be our first guy off the bench, our sixth man. So yeah, I think if I had to guess, I'd say it's probably going to be either Walker or Reeves that probably starts for the Lakers at the 2 spot. Westbrook got a new agent. Does he have any leverage in a trade or eternally? It depends on how good the agent is. Now, when it comes to the company that he signed, Schwartz is actually, he's always been a pretty solid agent. Jeff Schwartz is a guy that's he's been in the league for some time. He's not new. This isn't his first rodeo, stuff like that. And the problem is that, and this is what his original agent was trying to explain to him. I understand you want out. I understand you want to be traded. The problem is that you're going to destroy all of your value if you trade him or if you have yourself be traded because the Lakers are going to have to give up assets to trade you. Not only are they going to have to give up assets to trade you, but any team that trades for you is just going to buy you out. And that is a terrible look. And now you're going to go to whatever team you want. Yeah, but you're going to go to that team on a vet minimum deal. And again, that looks very badly for you. That is what uh, the previous uh, agent was trying to get him. Uh, Westbrook, does he have leverage? To a degree, yeah. But not he doesn't have anything heavily. Like he could demand all he wants. I mean, the Lakers could always just send him home. The Lakers aren't going to trade him just to trade him. That's not going to happen. Now, could they do a workout, a buyout or something? Possibly, but at that point, it's just again, it doesn't really make sense for the Lakers. So we'll see. We'll see how it plays out. Play AD at the 4 and keep him out of the paint. Maybe that'll keep him from getting injured again. Yeah, I actually think that's kind of the plan. I do. I really think that's why they got the big guys. That way, Anthony Davis doesn't have to bang down low with the big fellas. He's more of a mismatch in certain and most matchups at the 4 than the 5. And he can kind of space the floor better. I mean, hopefully he's not an 18% 3-point shooter again. But I do think that, you could probably, I think that that's the best position for him, to hopefully not get hurt again and at least play. I mean, he's going to miss probably 20 games regardless, but it's not that I don't mind if he misses games because we're in an NBA where all the stars miss games. My problem is to what is the reason for him missing those games and how many extended weeks is he missing? If he's missing, 2 or 3 games every like once a month or something like that, like okay, fine. You missed 20 games in the season, but they were spread out. You played a good chunk. But if he's missing like 10 games at a time, that's not good. We can't have stuff like that happen. If the Lakers possibly maybe get Randall, which would suck, since I really want Kyrie, you would have to move LeBron to point guard, then Randall to small forward, AD to power forward. And that's my problem. Is Julius Randle either A has to come off the bench, or they have to put him in a position that he's not natural at, or they have to start KD or AD at the 5, which all of those instances are terrible, right? Because the whole point of you going and getting those big guys in that size is so Anthony Davis doesn't have to play the 5. Now, come playoff time, I think that's a different story. If you're in a game 7 against the Phoenix Suns or something like that, you are starting Anthony Davis at the 5 position. That's what you're doing. But I think for an 82 game season, the idea is you have Anthony Davis play the 4. He's not going to get as banged up over the season. He's not going to have to do so much over the season. And hopefully come playoff time, he can be more engaged, healthy in the game. I just think the Randall trade it makes no sense. There's no real reason to go get Julius Randle. Keep Randall off the Lakers. Facts. Do you think that the T-Wolves Gobert trade was a bad move? I mean, for those assets, maybe Donovan Mitchell or other star would be plausible. I mean, depends on what those assets turn out to be. If they're a bunch of like terrible draft picks, then no. At first glance, just looking at the package, if it wasn't the Timberwolves, then yes. But the Timberwolves have for so long done pretty much the same thing, and it never seems to work. The Timberwolves finally seem to be trying to go all in with their team. So I don't knock them for the move. Anytime you get the, all-star level player, you win the trade. The better player going to the team is usually the team that wins the trade. It was just a lot. And I think I think the Timberwolves could have made the exact same deal and didn't have to give up so much. Now the player part, yes. The player part, they probably would have had to give it up regardless. And I think a lot of people they're looking at, it was like 7 players and it was, you know, seven or what is 5 first round picks or whatever, right? And I think that that's the problem. They're like they gave up essentially 11 players in this deal, but in reality, it wasn't, right? Patrick Beverly expiring player contract. Are you really re-signing him? Probably not. Going a different direction. Beasley is nice piece, but you know, is he a guy that you want for the long haul? Probably not. Vanderbilt, that I think was a tough loss for them. Um, and then who was the other guy? Was essentially just like a throwaway player. Like the salary parts, instead of trading all your big name players, you basically took all of your small salaries, put them together, and said, "Here, this is enough to go get Rudy Gobert." So I think I think the player movement part, I think people are looking at the quantity rather than the quality, and I don't think that is a big deal. The draft picks, that's a lot. I don't think they would have had to give up as many draft picks. But they, like I said, I don't knock them for trying to finally make a move. This is something that they should have done for years. Not necessarily Gobert, but to get a guy that could do this. Donovan Mitchell, I think, would have been the better player to get. The problem is you have D'Angelo Russell, you have Anthony Edwards, so it's like, where does Mitchell fit? You're already not very good defensively in the backcourt. Um, so the idea is like Towns, he is arguably the best shooting big in the league. He might be the best shooting big ever. So him playing the power forward, you could naturally do that. And what do all the teams that are really good right now? What do they all lack? Oh, size. The Warriors, who were in the finals, how are they going to guard Carl Anthony Towns and Rudy Gobert? Good luck. Teams like, like even the Grizzlies, they went small a lot of their playoff run. Like, good luck guarding Gobert and Edwards. Even from the Eastern side, is Tobias Harris is going to guard Carl Anthony Towns? Good luck. Is Al Horford going to guard Carl Anthony Towns? Good luck. I think that was kind of their logic. Like, we got the wings, we got the guards, we got our guard play down. Do we go and get another guard that could maybe, upgrade, like say like Mitchell to Russell? How much of an upgrade is that? And they also, like, the Timberwolves had, and I talked about this a long time ago. The Timberwolves actually had like a crazy stat that when D'Angelo Russell averaged, I think it was something along the lines, I could be off a little bit, but it was something along the lines of like, if D'Angelo Russell averaged 20 points, the Minnesota Timberwolves were like something crazy, like an 80% win team. So like that was like a thing. It was like they were like 44-9 or something like that when D'Angelo Russell averaged 20 or more points. Like, they were almost unbeatable when it came to D'Angelo, and that's including Anthony Edwards and Carl Anthony Towns putting up their average. But we even saw that. Like, we even saw that in the playoffs and in the play and stuff. Like, the games that D'Angelo Russell showed up and established the tone. I mean, D'Angelo Russell single-handedly won one of those games. Like, so that was the big thing. And so it was like, we got, like, if we have Russell, we have Anthony Edwards, we're good there. Carl Anthony Towns, he's such a talented and gifted offensive big man, but he's not the greatest defensively. And do we really want him to continue to bang with the big fellas, right? Move him to the 4, bring Rudy Gobert to the 5, and allow Rudy to kind of do his thing. Maybe that would work out. That's what I think their logic was, personally. If Kendrick Nunn played last year, the Lakers make a first-round playoff appearance, but probably an exit. I don't know if Kendrick Nunn, because the problem was there was just so many problems with the Lakers last year. I think Kendrick Nunn would have made an impact. I think if we had Kendrick Nunn, we would have been a play-in team at least. I really do. I think if we would have gotten Kendrick Nunn, we would have been a play-in team. But depending on how things shaped up, could we have beaten the other playing teams like the Pelicans? Yeah, I think we could have beaten the Pelicans. Could we have beaten the Grizzlies? Yeah, I think we could have beat not the Timberwolves. Yeah, I think we could have beaten the Timberwolves. Um, I just yeah, if we did make the playoffs, I still think we would have been a first round exit. None should start over us. I'm not against that. The problem is they're not going to do that as much as I would be for that. But if he played last year and played well, would he have opted in? I mean, depends. Depends on what he wants. Like, because he seems to want to be in LA. He seems to want to be with the Lakers. And I know this year he had kind of no choice but to opt in. But like, there were teams that offered him more money. He wanted to go to the Lakers. Like, and people were upset, you know. But he wanted to go to LA. So I think he's a guy that is probably going to want to be here for the long haul, which I am all for. If he could get back to being, Kendrick Nunn, Miami Heat Kendrick Nunn, then I am all for him being in this for the long haul. We'll never know, Lake Show. Very true. What do you think about Milwaukee moving into the future since they are getting older? I still think they're the best team in the East. Like, even with their age, even with stuff like that, I still think they're the best team in the East, and I still think they're going to be fine. Um, I don't think they need to worry about that for a couple more years, but they are definitely getting older, and they definitely do need, like, if depending on how this season and maybe next season goes, then they might want to start looking at the future. They might want to start, or at least retooling. Chris Middleton, this is like what, the second time in 3 years that he's gotten hurt, and it basically cost them a trip to the finals. Because I personally believe that if the Bucks had Chris Middleton, they would have beaten the Celtics, and then they would have beaten Miami. And I think that they match up way better with the Celtics than the Boston Celtics, or way better with the Warriors than the Boston Celtics do. So I think we would have been looking. It's very possible Milwaukee could have won back to back this year. So at some point you got to look at that. Drew Holiday, he is getting older, but he still doesn't seem to be missing a step, and he's just such a perfect fit for them. He might be more valuable than Chris Middleton. But I think, if they end up being like a first round exit this year, or Middleton gets hurt again and they get eliminated because of that, then maybe Milwaukee should start looking at, like, maybe we need to switch something up. Maybe it's time to move Middleton. Maybe if you can keep Holiday, great. Stuff like that, because you don't want to be locked in too long. But if Westbrook has an MVP type season, the Lakers go far in the playoffs, do you commit to him long term? I don't think so. Like, let's say Westbrook buys in. He's 100% bought in. And they make it work. Let's say they win the championship, right? Like, let's take it up a level, right? And they work beautifully. I don't think, because you're with that team, you're still you proved that everything has to go right, and you are one sort of bad moment away from this team being a disaster again. I just think even if you win the championship, you look at it as like, hey, Russ, you got your championship, you got everything you needed. Go win. Go win somewhere else. Good luck. Thank you for your help. Thank you for your contribution. This was great. I do. Unless he's willing to take like a $5 million a year deal and come off the bench or something, then sure. Yeah. Like, if he's like, hey, I want to stay in LA, I don't want to go anywhere else. I'll play a 6-man role. I want to win another championship. Let's run it back. Something like that. Like, I'll take, whatever. I'll take $15 million a year to be a 6-man. Like, then yeah, I would say, what, give him a shot, give him a run. And especially Russ at $15 million a year, you could probably trade him. That's a very tradable contract. So yeah, but I don't think Russ would ever do that, and I don't think the Lakers would want to run it back, even if they won the championship. The brick wall looks so cool. Well, thank you, I appreciate it. Gobert rhymes with Showbear. Rudy Showbear. Minnesota choked so much during that series. Yeah, dude. Seriously, I don't think I've ever like as great as Carl Anthony Towns is. He might be the dumbest IQ player I've ever seen, and that says a lot. Like he makes some of the most just boneheaded decisions I think I've ever seen in a player. Like he's an incredible talent, but he has no basketball IQ. And it doesn't help when your best player is doing things like that. That causes a lot of your other guys to now start doing that because you're a young team, it becomes contagious and so on and so forth. It just, yeah, they basically gave those things away. And that's why I don't think Minnesota is going to be a contender. I think that they look really nice on paper. I could see them being like maybe even like the 3 or 4 seed in the West. But I think come playoff time, I think their lack of experience and just their collective basketball IQ is not going to be very good, and they're not going to be able to get the job done. D'Lo needs to be efficient and score the ball. Towns doesn't have the clutch gene. Yeah, I agree. Like I said, there's like I wish I had the stat written down somewhere. Like there was like a crazy stat that said, and even one of the games, maybe was it the Pelican game? Maybe, but anyway, there was a game where they talked about like that too. Like D'Lo, like when D'Lo average would scores like 20 points a game, this team is like one of the like statistically is. Oh no, I missed one. Sorry, I'll get back to that in a second. I accidentally jumped over him. Who do you got as favorites for the NFL season? Um, right now, so the team that I'm going to bet on, I don't think that they win the Super Bowl, but their odds are incredible. Are the Chargers? The Chargers are like 15-1 or something like that. And all I need is for them to make the playoffs, and then I can just hedge the rest of the way. But I really like the Bucks team. I have a couple questions defensively, but they should be solid defensively, and their offense is insane. And it's not even like just the Julio Jones stuff like that. I just think that they're good. I think they're going to be really good. Um, and this just seems like a year that Tom Brady would win randomly. He retired and then like 10 minutes later unretired and then comes back and wins a championship. It just sounds like a storyline that could happen. So I'd probably go with the Bucks. I really like the Bills this year. I really think the Bills are going to get it done. I do. I like the Bills, or at least get to the Super Bowl. So I'll probably take the Bills and the Bucks as like the teams that I think will win it, and then like my long shot will be the Chargers, which all I need them to do is make the playoffs, and I'll win some money. So that's probably what I'll end up doing. 2-0 and MVP. Milwaukee better than Celtics. Brogdon and Gallo give Celtics edge according to Vegas. I like look. I think Gallo and Brogdon are huge upgrades. I think that makes them a much better team. But I still think Milwaukee is just better. Overall, I just think problem is his health, and that's another thing. Like with Brogdon and stuff, can he stay healthy? He hasn't been able to stay healthy the past couple seasons. Gallo, he's a guy that can stand in the corner and shoot threes. I mean, he's shown the last couple years he's not the same guy he once was. I do think Gallo is a good Gallo as like your eighth man is great. But like that guy who is your starter, who is just dominating that kind of thing, yeah, that's not who he is anymore. It's not the same guy anymore. So I don't, yeah, I'm not very big on that. Sorry, give me 1 second. Trying to stay on top of it. It could happen. I'm assuming you mean the Westbrook championship thing because that's what I was talking about when this came up. I mean, yeah. I mean, anything's possible. I rule it out. I mean, look, if Darvin Ham can get Westbrook to be effective, he doesn't have to be MVP level. Just be effective. Just get him to be the guy that the Lakers wanted when they got him. A guy that can give you, 15 to 20 night in and night out. A guy that can, alleviate LeBron, that can help win games, all that stuff. And you run him in the proper manner as like the sixth man role. You have to start him just for Russ's ego, but in like a sixth man role, something like that, fine, go ahead. Um, and I think if you can make it work, then cool. I think that it's very possible that the Lakers could win the championship because no team last year looked like world beaters. Like none of the teams in both the East and the West were Kevin Durant on the Warriors good. Like even the Warriors who won the championship, they looked very beatable. Um, and I think that that is a huge positive for the Lakers because they don't I don't think they need to be this incredibly talented team. I think you just if you can get to the playoffs, you get a couple favorable matchups, you get a dominant LeBron James, a dominant Anthony Davis, who are both healthy, and you can get Russ to kind of be like if you could, like I said, if you run Russ as like basically your sixth man, you start him for his ego and stuff, but if you can run Russ as your sixth man, and then when Russ is doing well, you keep him at the end of games or whatever. But if you can figure out a way to make him just serviceable, doesn't have to be great, just make him serviceable. Just make him a consistent role guy. Then one, which bench in the NBA can stop Russ? And two, like you got that consistent guy. I really think the Lakers could be in the conversation. I do. I wouldn't bet on it, but I do. I wouldn't be surprised. Like if you told me, like, oh, like if you had a time machine, you go back into the you could go into the future and say, hey, Darvin Ham ran the 4-out, 1-in offense. He was able to get Russ to be effective, and Russ averaged like 15 to 20 a game. And they actually made it to the playoffs. They finished at like this, 5 or 6 seed because I don't think they're going to care about seeding. He finished as the 5 or 6 seed, ended up making a run to the finals, and they won the finals. Do you believe that? I'd be like, okay, like yeah. I'd be like, I believe it. Man, people on media are very high on the 76, especially with Harden's contract. I don't think PJ Tucker was such a good acquire at 37 years old. I don't think PJ Tucker is as good as acquire. Like people acted like like they just acquired Michael Jordan or like Scottie Pippen. PJ Tucker is an excellent player. Don't get me wrong. Even at 37, he's going to have an impact, but he's not going to be so impactful you're winning a championship. Same thing with Daniel House. Now, I do think the Sixers are one of the best teams in the league if you get Houston James Harden. Houston James Harden that was leading that team. If you can get him, I think this team is a team that can win a championship. I just don't know if you're going to get that. One, I don't know if he's that player still. Two, just playoff Harden is not a Harden that you want. He's just not very good in the playoffs, and he showed it consistently. And I don't think PJ Tucker and I don't think Daniel House are good enough acquisitions to say, oh, if James Harden isn't great, these two guys are going to lead the charge. Now, if you get a James Harden that's averaging, a damn near a 30-point triple-double, and he's playing at an MVP level, and you have, Joel Embiid playing at an MVP level, then yeah, that might be one of the scariest teams, if not the scariest team in the league. The Pelicans could be tough. Could be a tough next season. I really like the Pelicans. It's just like, can Zion stay healthy and can he actually play? Like that's a real concern. Also, Brandon Ingram doesn't seem too happy that they acquired CJ McCollum. Like he seems very like unhappy with that acquisition. Which I think is pretty interesting. And so much so, like even the Summer League announcers in one of the Summer League games that the Pelicans were playing were talking about that like he just doesn't look happy anymore. So if there's drama, I don't know. But I do like the Pelicans team. I do think they are very solid. I keep seeing Heat fans photoshopping Russ into a Heat jersey. Hey, I mean, if we could get, I mean, it's not going to happen. But if we could have gotten like a, Tyler Hero deal for Russ, I wouldn't be against it. The problem is we'd have to take on Kyle Lowry and that terrible contract, which I wouldn't want. But like if we could get like if we could get like Tyler Hero and Kyle Lowry for Russ, I don't know. Would you do it? Like if Lakers didn't have to give up a first, like if Lakers didn't have to give up any like assets or maybe one first because you are getting back Tyler Hero. I'm not saying it would ever happen or they would do it, but I just think like because Miami, you're moving off, you're able to get out of the Kyle Lowry contract, and not only are you able to get out of the Kyle Lowry contract, but Russ, you're clearing salary. The problem is they would want us to take on Duncan Robinson too, which I wouldn't want. Um, but maybe if you don't have to give up any firsts, and maybe you give up like a THT and you take like a Duncan Robinson, let's say a Duncan Robinson. I don't know if off the top of my head, I don't know if the salary matches, but it should be close. Duncan Robinson, Tyler Hero, and Kyle Lowry for Wayne Gabriel, THT, and Russell Westbrook. I'm pretty sure that math works. I'm pretty sure that the numbers would work. I mean, and you wouldn't have to give up a first if you're the Lakers because you're taking on two bad contracts. But if Duncan Robinson can get back to being the bubble Duncan Robinson, that was like a 43% 3-point shooter. So there's your Buddy Hield. And then Kyle Lowry is a better fit than Russell Westbrook is. And you get a guy in Tyler Hero who could be your third option, could be your third scorer. That could be pretty solid. Still get to keep Kendrick Nunn. And then from Miami's perspective, I might actually do a video about this. This actually isn't a terrible idea. And then from Miami's perspective, you're moving off of two terrible contracts. Even though Kyle Lowry was pretty good for them when he was healthy, but moving off of two bad contracts, you're getting a guy that can help Jimmy Butler score. Jimmy Butler might actually love Russ because Russ is that engine. He's that hungry, winning. Like, I'm going to show up every day to practice, to the games, to all that stuff. Him and Jimmy Butler might mesh pretty well. I don't know. It's an interesting thought. Actually, kind of, would it be terrible? I think. But anyway, maybe I got to think about that a little more and say they'll give the Lakers Kyle Lowry and Duncan Robinson. Yeah, if you're doing this deal, we got to get THT. We'd have to because these are two terrible contracts. So, yeah, I just – like if we got or not THT, Tyler Hero and we give up THT. If it was something like that where we get Tyler Hero because he's also young, he can kind of be our guy for the future too. And Miami doesn't seem very high on Tyler Hero. They really don't. Like Pat Riley told Tyler Hero that he's never going to start until he learns to play defense, stuff like that. Tyler Hero at some point might just say, "I want out," And if you're Miami, if Russ works, great. If it doesn't, you get a clean slate. You move off of Robinson and Lowry, and the Lakers would get to keep their two firsts, which means if you need to move Lowry or Duncan Robinson, you'd be able to. Just a thought. What else we got? I want some of the Kool-Aid championship. LeBron is 37. AD has to be Batman. Russ isn't efficient and too many inexperienced players. Come on, man. I didn't say they would win the championship. I said it's not unlikely. It's not impossible. Dude, LeBron James has proven he just needs like one guy to be semi-effective and he can win. And I understand LeBron James is 37, but that 37-year-old led the league in scoring last year. Like, and a dominant Anthony Davis, like who's stopping? Like who's better than them? Like, there's maybe three teams better than that. So that would make the Lakers a contender because usually a contender are the top 4 to 5 teams in the league. If you have a dominant Anthony Davis and a dominant LeBron James, you don't think that that's a top 4 or 5 team in the league, even with their young guys, even with their role players, even with their inexperienced stuff and Russ being inefficient, stuff like that. And I added some caveats. Got to listen, man. Keep up the good work, bro. Thank you for all your information. Good work. Well, thank you, Crazy Cuzzo. I appreciate you. Thank you. Most transition points per game in 2022, 8.5. LeBron James, John Morant. Yeah, I mean, look, LeBron James, as much as people like to talk about LeBron and stuff, he was fantastic. He really was. He was great last year. Also, LeBron does not get enough foul calls. That's like the Shaq treatment, right? You get the big fella. He should be getting the calls and he doesn't. I feel like that. He doesn't. He definitely doesn't get the calls that he should be. Um, Come on, man. Miami's not trading Hero. Stay off the weed. They've been trying to trade Hero the last 2 years. What do you mean? He's included in every trade package that they do. Pat Riley would move Tyler Hero tomorrow. Tyler Hero wants to be a starter. There was a report from Miami that talked about Tyler Hero spoke to Pat Riley about starting for the Miami Heat. And Pat Riley told him absolutely not until you become a two-way player. Like that came from Miami. That was a report from Miami. Like that was something that wasn't like the Lakers leaked it or something like that. Miami's been trying to move off of Tyler Hero for the last several years. If Pat Riley could move off of Kyle Lowry and Duncan Robinson, he will trade Tyler Hero because he would essentially have a clean book. He would have essentially Bam and Jimmy Butler after this season. Like, of course he would. Of course he would. And Miami just proved that they could get to the finals without, or not to the finals, but the Eastern Conference Finals without Tyler Hero. They didn't even play Tyler Hero. So I'm not saying it's going to happen. I'm not saying it ever would happen. I'm not saying anything like that. But I'm saying like it's not like unrealistic. I mean, you're basically wiping Miami's books for them. Like that's a pretty good spot to be in. And Pat Riley needs to do that. He wants to do that. Like that's why all the trades you hear about are Kyle Lowry and Duncan Robinson because he wants to get off those contracts. Until now, no trades. I just can't wait for the Lakers to trade Russ. Yeah, I mean, we still got a whole month before anything major has to happen. So I mean, it's still very likely might be a while. Hero is getting a max extension. Where is it? He hasn't gotten it yet. Yeah, Hero is not worth. He's not worth a max extension. Not right now. Pat Riley doesn't even want to start him. Why? Why would they give Tyler Hero a max extension when Pat Riley doesn't even think he's worthy of being a starter on his team? I think Tyler Hero is a great player. I think I would start Tyler Hero over half the guys they start, but Pat Riley doesn't think so. So he's going to give him a max contract and what? Like he's been trying, like I said, he's been trying to trade Tyler Hero for the last 2 seasons. Every even trade rumor is Miami offering Tyler Hero this, that, and the other. As it stands, when do you think people start calling NBA players the GOAT? By today's standards, way too soon. I mean, literally, like you see fans and teams calling, Ja Morant the future GOAT and this, that, and the other. It's just, I don't know. It doesn't. People are way too quick to rush that. It just seems like after two, like even Luka. Like people are already calling Luka the GOAT and stuff like that. Like I think Luka is fantastic. I think Luka could end up being an all-time great in this league. But like let's give him some accomplishments in some years to actually prove that he can live up to that standards. I mean, like perfect example, Tyreke Evans. Tyreke Evans was a player that has one of, if not the best rookie seasons in history. He's one of like 2 or 3 rookies in history to average like 20 plus points, 5 plus assists, and 5 rebounds a game. And he's not even in the league anymore. You know what I mean? And people thought he was the next superstar. Grant Hill, and that was more injuries and stuff, but Grant Hill was looked at as the second coming of Michael Jordan. And look what happened. So like let's relax on the GOAT talk, when it comes to that. That people just like to do that too soon. Tyler Hero disappeared versus Celtics. I know he was injured, but come on, man. I mean, they didn't even play him. They ended up pulling him. What's going on, Austin? Appreciate you being here. LeBron, what's up? Hero's gonna give him a bag, maybe not max, but if they gave Duncan Robinson $20 million and barely play him. Yeah, well, that's the problem. They want to move off of Duncan Robinson bad. They messed up on that contract. But like when they gave Duncan Robinson that contract, he shot like 43% from 3. Like the dude was lights out when they gave him that contract. At the time, it looked like a really good contract. It's just he's never been able to replicate that since. But I don't think that they're. I definitely think they're gonna. I think Duncan Robinson's gonna get money. I think he's gonna get paid. I just don't think Miami's gonna pay him the max. And then if they don't give him the max and he doesn't sign that extension, then what? I don't know how much longer Tyler Hero is gonna be on the Miami Heat. And that's why I was saying, like, if Miami could move off of Duncan Robinson and Kyle Lowry, I think that they would give up Tyler Hero. Like I said, Pat Riley doesn't even want to start Tyler. Like he does it. He told Tyler he's not starting. As an NBA fan, I had great expectations for Tyler Hero, and that was an error. What a deception! I could feel it. I still think he could be a really good player. He's never going to be that defensive stopper, and he thinks. I think he thinks he's a little better than he is. I do think he's a consistent 20+ point a game guy, and he's only going to get better. I definitely think he is a scorer. He's going to end up being another, Donovan Mitchell, Jamal Murray type player where, they put up a bunch of points, their teams never really win, and, they look good, and, they're in conversations for, all-stars and stuff like that, but they're never really going to be like a star. So yeah, the only player I think may end up being the GOAT is Luka, but it's way too early. I agree that Luka is an incredible player. He's an incredible talent, and he may be. But it's like you said, it's just way too soon. Like fans love to just throw out the title of GOAT or GOATs for like these NBA players, and it's like, let's take a step back. As it stands, is the true MVP. Well, thank you. I feel like you're mocking me, but thank you. People say GOAT, masterpiece, and perfect way too much nowadays. It ruined the words. I agree. I'm with you. I'm losing respect for Ja. I loved him as a rookie, but he needs to be humbled. Yeah, I mean, yeah, he's got to take a step back. As it stands, is the true GOAT. Again, thank you. Tyler Hero was sixth man of the year. Riley says Hero would start if he improved defense. He did this as a challenge, not as a liability. Hero's always in trade talks because he's valuable. He's not that valuable because no one wants to trade for him. Like I said, Tyler Hero is a great talent. I love Tyler Hero as a player, but come on, he's probably never going to be a star in this league. He may have an all-star appearance or two, but he's never going to be. He's not going to be that player that's leading your team to a championship. He's just not. He doesn't play defense, and I understand it was a call to action to try to get him to become better, to become more viable, but he's not gonna improve enough defensively for Pat Riley to be like, okay, you're the starter. I'm not saying that Pat Riley might not have him start out of just necessity, but it's just he's not going to be that guy. And I don't think Miami's going to give him a max, which means he's going to want out, which means now it's going to be a weird situation. I don't know. He's not the guy. He's a great second, maybe depending on if Luka is your number one, Tyler Hero is probably a great number two. But if he's on a team, he's probably your number three. Just a guy that you need to just score, go get you 20+ a game. He's perfect for the 6-man role, but he just thinks he's this superstar, and he's not. Luka doesn't play defense. Absolutely not. He does not play defense. But when you're that great, you kind of don't have to. Can't believe I watched every Laker game last year. Nightmare. It was tough to watch, but hopefully this year will be better. As it sounds like a name of a male-focused porno story. That's right. And I stands. Hero isn't a franchise guy, but he'd be a great third option. Exactly, yeah. Perfect. Exactly what I was saying. He'd be a fan. He's great in the 6-man to third option role. If he's a guy that all you need is him to just go out and get you 30 a game, perfect. That's what you need. But outside of that, no, he's never going to be that number one guy. Luka averaged 40, 20, and 20 on 2K. That's awesome. But anyway, we wrapped it up here. I'm gonna finish up this. I'm gonna close this out and get out of here. Want to do about an hour. I'm gonna get back in the swing of things. Trying to live stream every day on this channel, and then I want to start live streaming on As It Stands Lakers 2 every day. I just got caught up and have it streamed on this channel. So doing that. But thank you all so very much for hanging out with me, spending the time with me, all of that jazz. And don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel if you're not subscribed, but I'm pretty sure all, if not most of you, are subscribed. Subscribe to As It Stands Lakers, trying to grow that channel. And thanks for the discussions. I really do. I appreciate all of you and all of our wonderful discussions. You know, whether we agree, whether we disagree, that's what it's all about. We're here to talk sports, have fun, have a good night. And all of you, I will see you all in the next one. Thank you.